Brown.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise to speak on this matter of public importance, the Abbott-Turnbull Government's plan to increase the rate of the GST and broaden its base. But I also would like to make a few comments about the contribution by Senator Mackenzie when she talked about caring for Australian people that are on low incomes. Not her words, but basically the intent of her contribution. This is the same senator. This is as part of the government that want to strip thousands of dollars from family tax benefits from families, Australian families. They wanted to introduce a GP tax, after they said there would be no changes to
Order
health.
on my right and my left.
These are the same people. This is the same senator who said she was concerned about the cost of living on Australians, and they didn't take it to the election, not brave enough to take these things to the election. They also wanted to take money off pensioners. They ripped billions of dollars from the states and territories through health and education. And of course, the classic, no money for unemployed people for 6 months, living on fresh air. This is what the caring attitude from those opposite. You wouldn't believe that these were their policies after listening to that contribution. There was denial in the chamber today, and it was coming from Senator Mackenzie, because most of those measures came out of the government's disastrous first budget. And I think if the government senators were honest, they would agree that it was actually a disastrous first budget. And if these measures had actually got through the Senate, it would be a sorry state of affairs for those vulnerable people that we just heard the senator say that she actually cared about. And she also talked about the legislation that came through the former Labor government's period in time. Of course, there was most of our legislation did get through. Of course, that was in spite of the slogan-driven opposition of Mr Abbott at the time, and the fact that they didn't enunciate their policies at all. We all remember that they were on a unity ticket, basically on everything that the Labor Party stood for, and yet, of course, they never enunciated any policy. They never told people what they were going to do. So why should we trust them now when they say? Some of them say there's no proposal for a GST. Some of them say that there's everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. So they cannot be trusted, and they've actually shown that. They've shown that, Madam Acting Deputy President, that they can't be trusted. And for all of those that have been interested in the serialised feature that's been running in the Sydney Morning Herald, which tells of a meeting between Mr Abbott and Mr Hockey and Treasury officials just before the leadership change to discuss. This is a meeting to discuss tax reform, and this prior to the leadership change. And on the agenda, according to the article, on the agenda was a clear path to increase the GST from 10% to 15%. Now, and also it was proposed to cut the top.
Point of order, Madam I don't know.
Senator Smith, yes, point of order.
I don't know if Senator Brown is trying to suggest that Premier Weatherall's 15% tax
Senator Smith,
isn't an original idea.
That is not a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I know they're sensitive on the other side. They've been tumbled. The Australian people are not stupid. They know what your plan is. Now, we had Mr Hockey come and see Mr Abbott with the Treasury officials to talk about the GST going from 10 to 15%. And the Sydney Morning Herald article says, and I will quote, "By the time the change was fully phased in over 2 to 4 years, this would generate about $40 billion in extra revenue to pay for the other parts of the plan." It goes on to say, "But the extra GST alone was not enough to pay for the tax cuts. To make up shortfall, the government would have to make. The government would also
Senator
have to
Mackenzie.
make big cuts to spending."
Acting Deputy President, a point of clarification. Senator Brown mentioned that the Labor
Senator Mackenzie, that is not a point. Senator Mackenzie, that is not
number 2.
Senator Mackenzie, that is not a point of order. Senator Brown, continue.
Thank you again, Madam Acting Deputy President. I mean, seriously, you know, I had to sit here and listen to the complete drivel from Senator Mackenzie without actually standing up and making a point of order. And here she is, you know, it's just ridiculous. I know they don't want to hear, but the Australian public do. They want to know what exactly the government is planning to do. Now, it is incumbent upon the Labor Party to let the Australian people know. We know work's been done. We know it has, and I'm sure, you know, they may not have the bravery and the courage that Senator McDonald talked about with former Prime Minister Howard, because it appears that
Senator
they don't.
Brown, the time for discussion has expired.